Yo, welcome to Uncut Sports No Feelings, where we give it to you straight, no chaser. We detach our feelings and we just tell it like it is, what we see. And my question to Bears fans out there, and it can be a broader question to fans of any team out there, when it comes to evaluating your offensive coordinator, can you really do that if, well, let me back it up for a minute. As much as I've given Ryan Poles his props for making certain moves, being aggressive when the chance presents itself, not being overly aggressive, pacing itself, making things make sense, straightening out the salary cap so that we have a lot of money under the cap. As much as I give him credit, at this point in time, I kind of got to take a dookie on him right now. Because how are you even able to legitimately evaluate your offensive coordinator, giving him a crappy offensive line to deal with? You're bringing in guys that used to play like you. You wasn't no Pro Bowler. You wasn't no mauler. You wasn't no masher. You was just a guy. And you're bringing in guys like that. You're bringing in just a guy to be starters. When just a guy, though, when you bring in a guy that's just a guy, that guy should be your backup. When you have a lot of injuries pile up with your starters on the offensive line, you bring in just a guy to basically play the Band-Aid role until you can get your starters back. That's not good enough. When you bring in a new offensive coordinator and Shane Waldron, how can you truly evaluate him? How do we even know if he's good at his job when he's forced to design game plans based off of knowing that his offensive lineman sucks? These guys are trash. I don't know what happened to Darnell Wright. He had a great rookie season last season. He was ranked very high amongst offensive linemen in the league, not just rookies, but offensive linemen as a whole. He was in the top third. And this year, it's like he's regressed. And you can't really, you can look at the offensive line coach and the guy you brought in, and it's like, it seems like Darnell Wright has regressed. Everybody else sucks. So now Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator you just brought in, he has to create game plans based off of knowing his line is bad. So, okay, now I have to basically design quick hitting routes. 3-step drop, Caleb, get rid of the ball, boom. Well, don't you think that defensive coordinators that are looking at you, they're going to pile up in the box, they're going to stop the run, they're going to stop all the short passes, intermediate passes that Caleb is throwing, because they know you're not going to have time to throw because your line is bad. So now you're just stuck because you can't block anything. You can't run block or pass block. And teams that are playing you know this. They got 2 games of film on you now. Anybody that has the Bears on their schedule, they have these game films to look at. And they're all thinking the same thing. Like, you know what? These guys can't run block or pass block. And as far as the passing game go, all their throws are short intermediate passes. We shut that down, we got them. So now you're stuck in this quandary. First of all, I'm not a big Matt Eberflus fan. I wanted him fired before we drafted Caleb. I don't know what Ben Johnson wants, but I'm pretty sure the Bears could have given it to him. Make him the head coach / offensive coordinator if that's what he wants to do. Let him implement his vision with Caleb. Let him develop Caleb, grow with Caleb. It would be easier to find a good defensive coordinator as opposed to doing things in the reverse. And based off of opportunity and who's available and this and that, I understand why Ryan Poles built this team the way he did, but I don't like how he has basically fell in the same. He's basically the same category, the same habits of past general managers of neglecting the offensive line. I don't know why these guys think you could just slap up any player on the offensive line and it'll be fine. If the most important position on an NFL football team is the quarterback, then arguably you can surmise that the second most important positions, plural, on the NFL football team is that offensive line, because that quarterback needs to have time and space to operate. And the past few general managers that the Chicago Bears have basically ignored the offensive line as far as putting quality on that line. So to any quarterback that you bring in, whether it's a veteran or whether you draft them, if they don't have time and they don't have space to operate, they're limited. They're not going to be able to do much. And even though I still to this day agree with getting rid of Justin Fields because he was a one-read quarterback, and he was one of those quarterbacks that you need everything on offense to be perfect in order for him to be good, and no NFL team is perfect. You know, as far as the whole team or one aspect of the team, whether it's the offense or the defense, you're not going to have perfection at every position. That's not realistic. So I agree with trading Justin Fields and moving on from him. I agree from before Ryan Poles got here and we had Ryan Pace, finally getting rid of Mitchell Trubisky, like, that was long overdue too. You can tell he just wasn't able to read defenses even when he had time. But it still falls back to the same thing. As an organization, I don't know why the one Super Bowl that the Bears have won and the other Super Bowl that the Bears have appeared in, the Bears had good offensive lines. That was a common denominator, even though the defense in both situations got a whole lot of the credit. They got the majority of the credit. But the other common denominator was both of those teams had good offensive lines. Rex Grossman wasn't no perennial Pro Bowl quarterback, but even he was able to do just enough to get the Bears to the Super Bowl. Why? Because that year the Bears had a good offensive line, had a good running game to go with the defense. And even though Rex would throw a lot of interceptions, at least he would have time to make those dumb throws. But ever since then, those two teams that are the only two teams that we can talk about with reverence because they got us to the Super Bowl. It seems like from organizational standpoint and every general manager they bring in, they ignore the offensive line. And now it's a situation where you bring in a new offensive coordinator, you're not even giving him a chance to even show if he's capable of doing that job or not. So we're approaching the same downward spirally trend of we're going to end up having to fire our head coach, which I support that anyway. And we're probably going to end up having to fire our offensive coordinator, even though we have no way even knowing if he's good at his job, because you gave him crap to work with as far as offensive line goes. We can't block anything. It's easy to say, well, maybe we should just run the ball. Maybe we should just run the ball. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. The problem is, you can't run the ball and you can't pass block. So if you can't run or pass because your line sucks, not only can you don't even have the opportunity to evaluate your offensive coordinator, and you don't have an opportunity to evaluate your number one draft pick quarterback that you brought in. His timing is off, and this and that. He's getting happy feet and he's getting jittery. Well, yeah, because he doesn't know where his next hit is going to come from. And there was one play when he snapped the ball, and his offensive lineman immediately he looks up, and they're being shoved in his face. Damn, they're on top of him. That is unacceptable. Ryan Poles, this is on you. As much as I've supported you in the past, supported your moves, everything you did, gave you credit, gave you your flowers while you're here, gave you props and all that, I got to take a dookie on you with this one. You got to catch the toilet. Because this is unacceptable. Which now is the question, how are you going to even evaluate Shane Waldron? Because I'm sure he knows what he's seen. Like, holy shit, these guys can't block anybody. They can't block any scheme. We can't run draws. We can't run screens. We can't pass block. We can't run block. This whole offensive line is stealing money. So now I got to devise a game plan knowing that my line can't block. And if I ask them to do certain things, they're going to get the quarterback killed. And that's going to be bad for all of us as far as job security goes. Another thing I got a dookie on Ryan Poles about is keeping Matt Eberflus. All these things you're doing around, it's like you got to put training wheels on him just to have him be a functioning head coach. If you have to do all of that in order to make him functional as a head coach, then maybe he's just not a good head coach. Maybe he's just a good defensive coordinator. Maybe that's his ceiling. It was up to you to be able to identify that before bringing him in. Now that he's here, it's your job to be able to identify that, hey, maybe all this guy is a good defensive coordinator. So that's just another whole heap of issues and problems, which still brings us back to the original point. We don't even know if Shane Waldron is good at his job, because now he has to constantly create game plans knowing that his line sucks. So what is that? Bubble screens, slants, short passes. You don't think for a second that opposing defenses is going to know exactly what's going on, what's coming? All because you brought a whole bunch of offensive linemen in that play like you used to when you were an offensive lineman, which was average at best. But let me know what y'all think. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section about what's going on with this offensive line and what the hell Ryan Poles is going to do about it. Hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Show support by hitting up the Cash App, $, Cobra Clutch 357. I'm out.